So I'm Oscar Bevis for iFL TV, and yeah, that's it. Doing interviews on fight weeks, pre-fight, post-fight, and hopefully with the aim of giving fans the insight they don't get on the TV. That was iFL's aim at the start, and yeah, I guess I've jumped on when they're doing all right.
Um, at the start, why boxing? Why did you choose boxing as a sport to get into and to make a living off of?
You know what? There was always something that fascinated me about the American side of boxing. So it would be when I was younger, the people around me, family, parents, my uncles coming around to watch big fights, Floyd Mayweather fights, and there was just something about the razzmatazz of the kind of shots of Vegas mid-fight, not even really the boxing, like it just kind of hooked me as in it felt a bit fancy and classy. But yeah, when you watched it, it was brutal. I can't pinpoint the exact thing, but it was definitely like the Americanization of boxing that we got over here, of watching the old late 90s fights that my dad used to watch and the early Floyd stuff. And there was something about Vegas and New York more than kind of your British boxing. It was kind of that hooked me. And then everyone will tell you once you get into boxing, there's no going back.
And how did you get your foot in the door initially? Obviously, you now work for iFL, but how did you get your foot in the door initially to try and get through to there?
Bit of a who, to be honest. I was at journalism school, so I always wanted to go into sports media. But I was good friends with him. We used to go to Chelsea together, giving each other Chelsea tickets every now and then when the other was working. And he told me about a place that come up at iFL. Went to York Hall, met Cougs for the first time, and he literally said straight off the bat, "Look, can you interview Lucy and Reed around the back of York Hall?" Done it. Was the ropiest interview of all time, which I'm pretty sure I actually deleted it off iFL because I couldn't watch it years later. Gave me like a week's trial to do an MTK show back then in Liverpool. And then on my 21st birthday, sent me a contract in the post to say, "Do you want to work for iFL?" So yeah, that was it.
What's the key in, obviously you've had a few years experience now in that role, what's the key to building sort of a rapport and a relationship with someone when you're doing interviews with them, or even outside when you need to get an interview with them outside of a show?
On camera, I always say talk like the camera's not there. I know that's easier said than done because you don't kind of introduce yourself formally. You're having a chat with your mates, but it's try and add like the friendly aspect into things. So obviously, yeah, it's serious, and if you're talking to a fighter after a loss or after a close decision, it's a bit different. But try and always add the friendly aspect in, because then next time you go to interview them, it's oh, you're right, and there's kind of that rapport built there. Like I would say, it took me 6 months to settle into the job because by the time the 6 months had passed, I'd done 2 fights of these fighters. So I'd interviewed them once and they'd fought again. And so I would say pretend the camera's not there, as stupid as that sounds. And then once you've got the rapport with someone, they'll always be keen. Boxers are always keen to give their time because I guess as much as they have promoters, they only represent themselves. So 99% of boxers, if you ask them for an interview of 5-10 minutes of their time, they are going to say yes.
And my project's on mental health in boxing. What's the, like, how important is it to take care of your mental health in boxing, whether you're in the journalism side, whether you're in the in the ring, whether you're in the promoting side, in the money side? How important is it to take care of that mental aspect of your career and your life?
Massive. I mean, in any aspect of life, of course, as we know now, there's a bit more of a spotlight than there ever was in any aspect, definitely. But boxing, I've been in so many changing rooms after defeats, close fights that haven't gone the way of fighters, and you can see as much as there's a team, it's clearly, or it looks, I can't speak from in-ring experience, but it just looks like a lonely place to be. Like I said, as much as your team are there, the only person you really ever put blame on as a boxer will be yourself. So I guess it's trying not too much from speaking to fighters, it's trying not too much to dwell on things, which sounds ridiculous because fighters at the top level kind of have to dwell on things. A lost fight could be a missed opportunity, a missed payday. So they always say it's not dwelling on things too much, which speaking to fighters is obviously easier said than done. But yeah, I mean, everyone can kind of see that boxing is such a lonely sport. But I also think that's the appeal to it as well on the other side. Why the successes are so good, you know. I love football. I'm a football boy at heart, but you've got 10 other boys with you on the pitch. Your success as a boxer is you in that ring on your own. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But mate, you've got to look after yourself in anything, not just boxing. And I suppose from my side, it's been quite easy because I get to do what I love. So I never really have stressful kind of down moments. But the ones that I see from boxers, you can tell the toll the sport takes on them. But boxing's got a decent support network now. So um, I think boxing's in a better place for that than it's ever been, for sure.
As you said, it's in a better place. Have you seen any sort of improvements in the acceptance of mental health and maybe the loss of a bit of the stigma behind mental health since you've been in the industry?
Yeah, I would say when I started, it was probably like, I would say the first turning point, because I started with iFL in 2019. And I would say that's when perhaps things started to change a little bit in terms of the public perception. People coming out and being open and honest. And I know there's a few fighters, you know, we don't need to name names, who've taken breaks from the sport because of it. So I think probably when I started was when the stigma dropped quite heavily. So I would say I've seen quite a change in that sense. And I think the world's just less brutal now. I think people don't like, it's not like people don't like honesty, but there's less straightforwardness now. And I think people are more aware of other people's feelings just in general life, not just boxing. So I'd say when I started at iFL, that was definitely when perhaps the stigma started to turn, and people were like open about their feelings and how they felt in boxing, definitely.
What have you seen sort of in the industry that has helped boxers through this? Have you seen any sort of like interactions that have helped people open up a little bit more, or if you haven't, what do you think that should be introduced to help boxers either after their careers or during it when they're at the low points?
Well, I've always thought there should be like and I know there's things out there and people are trying, but I always thought there should be like almost a British Boxing Board of Control, like vets sort of thing. So, you know, like, sorry if my eyes are in a bit, I've got a bit of a cold. With, you know, like with the military, they have like vets that are like vet communities and places to look after people who've like been in the military. Kind of like a British Boxing Board of Control thing for that. I know a lot of fighters get into timekeeping, and there'll be a few, very few, that might go into judging and have roles in the board, but kind of like a vet society, if you like, where they can put their boxing experiences into helping younger fighters. And then plus, when they're all together, you still get that gym camaraderie. You can be 50 years old, but you're kind of in a group of kind of, like I said, boxing vets. Just kind of a thing off the top of my head, but I don't know, a place where people can be together, because you see in any sport, people say they miss the camaraderie of it all. And when you're 50 years old and you're not going into a buzzing gym with all the lads got fight dates booked in, I can imagine that's probably the hardest bit. So maybe like things where people can get together, ex-fighters can get together, even if they just want to talk crap about boxing, do that. Yeah, people getting together, I guess, is the best one.
Yeah, I think you obviously get the roles on the media and stuff like that they get the opportunity to speak about it, but I don't think there is. You're right. There is no sort of either not necessarily charity or even place that a lot of ex-boxers can go to sort of speak to other people, like-minded people that are in the same situation, same position as them. I think especially it's really hard for a lot of boxers after careers. They start to lose a lot of the motivation, so they get quite overweight, and their issues with fluctuating weight through weight cutting in general as well is a major issue. So I think, I think a place that they could both, or a lot of them could go and have people going through the same problems, even speak about it, I think would be perfect. It would be a really good opportunity. And just finally, what advice would you give to someone in sort of my position when you first started? What would be the advice you'd give to someone that wants to get into the boxing industry?
Take every opportunity you can get. And I know that sounds like the most basic advice ever, but before I worked at iFL, I was doing a couple bits say more volunteering really free of charge for a couple of the smaller end YouTube channels, some channels that aren't even around anymore. So take every opportunity you can get, because I look at boys who work for us now, like Joe Pugh. He started with he started with a smaller channel, kind of got a bit noticed, got his personality out there, and now he works with us. My boy Charlie Parsons, I helped him helped him get his way into the industry a little bit, which he will tell people, by the way. And you see, he's gone from working on kind of the smaller edge channels to being in the place he is now. So you will get noticed if you put yourself about. Obviously, I know you said you're doing bits of grassroots boxing. So there you go. There will be points where you get opportunities for big interviews and big moments, and they're the times to show yourself and show the talent. So take every single opportunity you can get, and something big will come your way. You never know. Like, you look at a lot of people who kind of work the top line of the industry. They didn't just jump there. They didn't just leave university and jump into the top line. The likes of like Addy on TalkSport, Chris Lloyd when he was on the Zone. They didn't just click their fingers and magic themselves into that position. They've done the hard yards before that, and sometimes that is working to earn no money, working to earn little money. But if you put that in, you're 100% get there.